Welcome to Rooster Radio, a broadcast dedicated to supporting and promoting local artists in the Gaston County and surrounding areas.
Right? Most venue owners aren't visible, but I've gone the opposite direction. I do a fucking podcast.
You're the face.
And I'm the face of this
Well, and you're actually
organization.
tending bar
Yeah,
at shows,
yeah.
and
But that's out of necessity. That's because I'm fucking broke and I need some money. I don't tend bar like because I love bartending. I do love bartending. It is a lot of fun. If I could afford to, I'd bring another bartender in and let Melissa and the other bartender just run this bar. I'd be able to go take a night off, spend it with my family. Mm-hmm. But I put everything I had in this place, so I have to.
What was this building before you?
So this building was built in 1915, and it was built for the B.H. Parker Cotton Company, and they built it to be a storage warehouse for bales of cotton to go on trains, because the train tracks used to run through this back parking lot. They put the tracks in that ditch in the 50s. They did that was.
They tore down like half of downtown to do that too, didn't they?
So there's a lot of controversy behind that.
Yeah.
A lot of people believe that, and they're probably right, that they did that to separate the Highland community from downtown Gastonia, because they moved the county seat from Dallas to Gastonia in the early 1900s. So the Dallas is where everything happened, but then the train tracks went through Gastonia, not Dallas. So everything started happening down here, so they moved the county seat here, but the Highland community was where the African American community was. And so they put this big ditch to kind of separate the Highland community from the downtown Gastonia community. It's a pretty controversial thing if you dig deep enough into the history of Gastonia. But anyways, in 1915 they built this here for the Cotton Company, and in 1922 they split it into two properties. And like you see where these poles are, mm-hmm. There was a cinder block wall from the front to the back of this building. It was two different addresses. And they did that because they started leasing out this side of the building to Coca-Cola bottling company so that they could store product to go on trains. And it was like that for a while. I dug into the University of North Carolina has archives, and they have all these, they have every directory that was made from 1915 to going into the 40s or 50s, whenever they started doing phone books.
Darn.
Yeah. So I looked through every single year's directory to find this, and looked specifically for the address, because this address of this building has changed 3 times since it was built. It's always been the 300 block of Main, but at one point it was 308, then it was 318, and then when I bought it was 334, because they would build more stuff, and government's changed. Anyways, it kind of gets lost in the mid-30s, the history, because it was the cotton and Coca-Cola for 15 years, and then it pops back up on in the deed books in the 50s when the people I bought it from bought it. The family that I bought this building from bought it, and they had an insurance business. And the guy that bought it ran his insurance business out of it back in the 50s and 60s. And, it's kind of hard to track from the 60s, 70s, 80s, because there's no archived phone books. You know what I mean?
Right.
The old directories are archived. It's very historic because the town was still small enough to not be too big of a document. But I would have to find a phone book from every year from the 70s to today to find what this place was. But I know that family started leasing this building out in the 70s. And it was one point, it was that side was a place called Luxury Fabrics, where they sold fabric for like upholstery and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And then when I bought it, this side of the building wasn't being used because it was in such poor shape. The roof was all messed up. Like you couldn't do anything on this side. But there was a guy renting that space, and he was just doing like a consignment shop type thing. But when I bought it, I told him, I said, I was like, I'm not gonna buy this building as long as there's a tenant. And so they got rid of him, and I bought the building. But yeah, it's been a bunch of different things. You know, it was kind of fun. That was something else I did during COVID. It was like I dug into the history.
I
of
was
the
getting
building.
ready to say, I was like, man, you really went deep
that'd
into
be just a
history.
good episode to do is just the history of the building and stuff. And
Yeah.
the business and
There's a lady, Lucy Pinniger. Shout out. I doubt she watches the show, but she's a historian for Gastonia and Gaston County. And I actually talked with her at one time. And she actually pointed me in the right direction to find some of the information that I found.
Cool.
But yeah, and I've tried to find some pictures and stuff, but there's really not a lot out there. I mean, this build has never been anything like, I hate to say it this way, but it's never been anything like really special, like something that was like a landmark or stood out or anything. Welcome to the show. We're talking to Gray and Jennifer of Lords and Liars. Say hey.
Hello.
Hey.
And you can catch them here on Saturday, August 17th with Strike the Tower, Award to Win, and Fever Hill. It's going to be a really fun night. Thank you for being on the show, by the way. It's
Thanks
going to
for
be a
having
killer
us.
show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Strike the Tower, going to headline another show here. It's been a minute since they've been here. You guys were here last, was it February or?
No, the last that big event you had.
No, the Rooster Olympics. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And
was
these
great.
guys are a lot of fun. For those who haven't seen them before, they're so much fun to watch live. I was immediately drawn to you guys the first time you played in at the Christmas party. So you guys get to show up to all the fun stuff. You haven't suffered an empty room night here yet.
Not here. We've had plenty.
But I was immediately drawn to you guys the first time you played here. Because you guys went on stage all night. 'Cause I didn't know you. I mean, you were drinking the Natty Lights. And then I didn't know that you were in the band at the time. I was busy back here that night, and then you guys get up, and it was just this explosion of creativity on stage. And that's what I told my wife. That's what I've told people about you guys. It's like you guys took all the fun parts of like Tool and Primus and Alice in Chains and like all of, like the heavy hitters of hard rock, the original like real creative stuff, and just do it in a blender. And it was like, fuck, what's happening right now?
Well, I appreciate that, and that honestly was our goal when we started this.
Yeah.
And we kind of take each song. I had a few rules. Number one was have fun. Number two, and I know people say this a lot, but I'm serious, was no drama.
Yeah.
The other two members of our band are named, the drummer's Steve Bedford, the guitarist is Kenny Raper. That is actually his last name.
fortunate.
But we, all four of us, have our own influences. We don't all listen to the exact same material. And I wanted to take the best parts out of all of it and meld it together. And I wanted each song to kind of have its own personality and sort of kind of a shout out to different bands.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got the point.
Yeah. I don't think I said Primus, but there's I hear a lot of Primus in there too. It's just, I mean, so how did you guys grow up playing all the different instruments? I mean, you've got trumpets, what all do you bring when you go to a show? Let's start there.
Of course, the basics, guitar, bass, drums. My very first instrument ever in middle school was trumpet.
Okay.
So I wanted to bring that. And of course, we got that in a tune. And I eventually got into some keyboard. So we do some switching out on the songs. She does some keyboard work as well. And then the other thing you see is that's an electric upright bass.
Right.
Ned Steinberger. So that's our gear list right now. I'm actually currently working on saxophone as well.
No shit.
Yeah, it's going to take a minute, but eventually you'll see me with one of those up there too.
Feels
And-
like it's taking forever.
It's fun to watch you two switch off because, like, you guys are kind of rotating around between the upright and the keyboard and stuff, and like she'll pick up the bass and just start thumping away. So how did you learn to become such a great musician? Because
Oh, I appreciate that.
yeah, well, let's start there because You guys clearly have some training because you're so good. I mean, precise. You're tight. You're like there's nothing's loose or sloppy when you
That's
play.
something we actually drill a lot as well. When we hit a break, and we've drilled that a lot. When I hit a break, or I'm sorry, when we hit a break, I want silence. Just that precision, and we've practiced that a whole lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Where'd you get your training?
I really, I was introduced to organ when I was younger, but only on and off. My grandfather played it, and we saw him maybe once or twice a year. I dicked around with the bass a little bit in high school and the acoustic guitar. I think what really solidified the whole was we homeschooled our kids. And I got this great book to teach your children to play piano. And it actually taught you to play with both hands at the same time. And after that, things just started kind of clicking. And
Falling into place for you?
yeah.
No.
And as far as bass, I think it was you just doing what I tell you to do.
Oh my God.
Just kidding.
Cancel. I call him James Brown sometimes because he he can be really mean.
Only during practice, because I want us to be a certain level.
Somebody's
No.
a perfectionist, right?
No, but honestly though, I'm self-taught with his help, and
Right on.
So actually, when Lord started, I played bass and, was the front man. She eventually said, I think I want to take over the majority of the bass duties to let me put on more of a show.
no, because I thought I could do it better.
Well, I mean, she kicks ass on
Yeah,
the bass.
she
There's
is-
no question about it.
Funny enough, she is far more of a precise player than I
I mean, there's
am.
only one other bass player in this area that I have that kind of reverence for, and her name's Emily. She's the bass player for Venus Invictus, and she was doing the Chili Peppers tribute
Oh.
too.
cool.
And she's another one that's really really fun to watch. Like her finger work on the bass, it's like she's playing lead guitar. Like she's just
Nice.
killing it.
Well, we'll have to get up with them, do a show together. I want to see. Yeah, we'll have to do a show together.
Y'all would pair well with Venus. They're more prog metal. But they're really fun. Like everyone in that band is a very well trained musician. You know what
Nice.
I mean? Like,
Yeah, I'll have to look them up. I'll get you to write that down for me when this is over with.
shout out, love you guys. I know Jim's watching. I don't know about the rest of them, but yeah, it's a lot of fun to see. Does your musical taste match the type of music you play? Like, what are you into? Like when you're just listening, vibing.
Gosh, we listen to a lot of like comedy and podcasts lately. But as far as music goes, we like a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and not just. There's not much in the country world, and that ain't me hating on country.
Yeah.
It's just on the whole, it's not my thing. I probably not that I've sat around and listened to all. I think my favorite country song is "Weed with Willie," just because.
There's a difference too, like with folk and bluegrass and country.
Now that's a good
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Definitely, I am more likely to sit around listening in that world to older stuff, Johnny Cash,
Same here.
Conway Twitty
Yep.
era. If I'm going to listen to anything like that,
John Prine's been a big one of mine. So
bluegrass also. Excuse me. I love bluegrass, I really do, but I can only do it in small doses. Like I can't sit around all day listening to bluegrass.
Kind of like death metal.
Yeah,
It's-
I don't
it's
listen to
great.
that. I can't listen to that all
Your
day.
ADHD
It's fun to
takes
see
over.
live.
Yeah.
It's fun to see live, but I'm not putting it on in my car.
Yeah,
Oh,
excellent
I-
point.
That's kind of how I say
Yeah.
that. Because like bluegrass is, I've been to a bunch of bluegrass shows. When I lived out that way, there was a place in Cary called the Six String Cafe. Yeah, Six String Cafe, and they brought in mostly like acoustic singer songwriter, but we would also bring in bluegrass. I saw Chatham County Line there. They're from your area. They're
Okay.
out that way. They're a really popular bluegrass band. And man, they get down, man, and
Yeah.
it's so much fun to watch. But I just can't bring myself to put that shit on it when I'm driving.
For a 4-hour road
Yeah,
trip,
yeah.
right? Yeah, but yeah, I mean, obviously, yes, our primary influences that you hear when we're playing. Primus is my favorite band.
Yeah.
Big on Slayer, but then we also, we'll throw Radiohead. And then right now, just on a kick, we've been jamming Bruno Mars. I mean, that dude's like, to me, is one of the total package.
Yeah,
Musician, entertainer.
Dancer.
I mean, so yeah, our musical tastes are quite varied.
Your songs, they sound complex. When you write, are you starting with, a lot of your songs are bass driven. Are you starting there most of the time? Are you starting on a piano? Like,
So generally, we're starting with the bass.
Yeah.
okay, I knew that was going to be the answer.
Yeah. The first EP actually that we put out, well, the only EP we've put out so far. Actually, I'm the only one that was in the group on it.
Okay, so you wrote all.
Yeah,
you're writing all the music.
No, I didn't write all the music by myself. It's just that the members are different.
There's no originals left.
Yeah, the first drummer was a fella, old friend of mine back from high school, Kevin Watson. We played together. He ultimately moved to Asheville, so we collaborated to write the music, but we knew he wasn't going to be on the table from the get-go. And then the guitarist on that was a fellow named Tyler Cook, also another old friend, and he eventually just had to move away due to employment. Kenny coming on board he was supposed to be our second guitar. He was supposed to be, I want two guitarists, but I'm also not going to get somebody in the group that I am iffy on. We've proven we can do it as a four-piece.
Yeah.
So if we have to do that until the end, I'm perfectly fine. But Kenny was actually supposed to be our second guitarist. Steve, we just met through local friends, and a guy named Brandon Brown told me that I think he'd be a good fit for us with his level of talent. And Steve is amazing. I mean, he's so tight. And once again, his influences, Tool, Rush. We knew coming in here, I did want to mention that the first time we were here, all that vinyl on the wall, and when I read the Rush line on the stage there, I was like, we're in the right place. Yeah,
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
It's funny. You know how many people have come up and told me that I spelled prophets wrong on that?
I think I was one of them.
I never even thought about that.
Because I understand when you read it, it looks wrong, but that's the actual word that Geddy Lee used when you were writing that song. And because funny story, when the artist that was doing it, when I gave her the line, I just told her for the words of the prophets were written on studio wall. She started spelling it out as the PROPH, and we had to go back and fix it. I was like, and when I saw her doing it, I was like, that doesn't seem right. I had to Google it. I had to Google the lyrics to make sure. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be PROFI, and sure enough, it was. So we had to go back and fix it.
Nice.
And then
Simon and Garfunkel did it with prophets.
Right. Well, that
PH,
line in the Rush song was Geddy Lee is tipping his cap to Simon and Garfunkel.
I did not know that, actually.
Because
Yeah.
it says the words of the prophets are written on the subway wall, and that's the Simon and Garfunkel line. But Spirit of the Radio, that whole album was kind of a concept album about commercialization of art and how, how much. The point they were making is that you can't put art in a box. You can't commercialize it and make it a corporate thing, because back then they were up against record companies trying to steal your shit and all that. So that line has always stood out since I'm a kid. I had an uncle who's a diehard Rush fan, so I've been listening to Rush for a very, very long time. And I always thought that when I was a kid, I thought that song was cool because when it gets to that bridge, the music changes up, the tempo changes up, and it's kind of like this fun little, kind of vibe. And then he says that, and he says this super profound line in the middle of this silly little bridge to a song. It just always stuck out. I remember being a kid, going on the bus, being like, concert hall. Is cool. But and I always wanted to have that quote somewhere in the building. I thought I'd put it on a wall or something. But when the artist came in to do the front of the stage, I was like, nah, that's where it goes.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It's a statement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a talking point, too. Somebody come up, that's written wrong. Nuh-uh.
Yeah. It does give me a chance to, educate
Yeah.
someone on classic rock and roll.
No, but for the writing process, we do generally. So each of us are actually in multiple bands.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Yeah,
know
I'm
that.
technically except for Jen. I'm technically in 3. Lords is kind of like I don't want to say my baby, but it's kind of mine.
Yeah.
Another band I'm in is kind of more in the punk rock world. It's called Safe Word. I'm their 3rd singer. So
Okay.
their last one stepped down. I mean, everybody parted ways friendly. He just needed to step away.
Yeah.
So they just asked they were practicing at our house anyway. So they just asked if I'd take over as far as that goes. I actually do very little writing for them at all. And then me, Kenny, and Steve they had started another group, and they're called Dread Manor, kind of another alternative metal. My son actually plays keyboards in that band.
Well, right on.
So that's really cool to be able to jam with him. Now, we're not gig ready yet. We've had to do some team rebuilding and whatnot. Obviously, Safe Word gigs, and we'll get out here eventually. But so that's my 3. Dread Manor is kind of where Steve and Kenny do a little more of their creation.
Right.
So everybody's got
Is
their
it is
thing.
it difficult for you to take a back seat in
Nope.
the other group?
No, you just like to show up and have fun. That's all you got to do.
Yeah, show up, do what I'm told, and it's wonderful. And Kenny, he still has his pure death metal project, and they're kind of in a team building phase right now as well.
Yeah.
So we each have our little outlet where we kind of
Can it flex your creative muscles
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, compared with some things I've been in with the past, it feels a little more efficient. Because like 4 or 5 dudes or gals aren't sitting around in a room for 3.5 hours arguing over, well, I want to do something like this part next, or I think this part's better, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just kind of like,
Everyone kind of owns their project, and you get in that side of creativity, and then you get the fun side of I'm just here to play in
You
the
got
other
it.
bands. That's really cool.
Yeah.
You guys are a pretty musical family. Did you both grow up in musical households?
nope. Well, she did from her.
Well, yeah, my grandfather that lived in upstate New York. I grew up in New Jersey, so
Skip the generation.
Jersey girl.
Yeah.
well, it was in the family, but very far away. So
And there was not a lick of musicianship in mine.
What got you into it, man? What sparked the flame?
Just middle school.
Yeah.
I don't know what they would call it. The music rep guy would come around to the middle schools and like let the kids see instruments. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
cool.
And
Yeah.
play for a minute.
Yeah.
Probably a little recruitment drive to try and get you to rent music equipment.
Right.
But I saw the trumpet, and that was that. And it was game on from there. Still got it. Still got my original.
Everybody in my family were musicians. Just about like both sides of the family. I had uncles that, my uncle that was super into Rush is a drummer. He's got 3 drum sets at his house right now.
Nice.
Another one of my uncle, he was a diehard Kiss fan. He played guitar. My dad played guitar. My youngest brother is a whiz. He can play anything. I picked up the bass when I was in junior high and high school. Was never very gifted. I was interested in other stuff. By the time I got into high school, didn't really stick with it. But the passion and the love for music has never left. And since I'm a kid, growing up, it was classic rock, old country, and then in the '80s, my mom was super into like Christian, like contemporary. Like no shit. I know like every Amy Grant song.
Christian music in the 80s and 90s was
It was
rough.
huge, man. Michael W. Smith. I don't know if you remember that guy.
Oh, that's
I do
okay.
not.
You're talking like late 90s, right?
80s. This is 80s. Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith were my mom's 2 favorite artists when I was a kid. They had careers into the 90s, but
Okay.
But I remember listening to those cassette tapes. My mom put that stuff on the house all the time. But for me, where the fire started for me is the neighborhood kids. One kid had a cassette tape of Guns N' Roses, "Use Your Illusion." Mm-hmm. And the first time I heard that, it was the first time I heard anything like that. And I was like, what is this? and then shortly after that came Pantera. I went from like Christian Contemporary to Guns N' Roses to Pantera, and then Rage Against the Machine and Pearl Jam and like the whole grunge era.
Let's talk more about your descent into the devil.
Yeah, it sounds like we're setting up for an after-school movie, a Christian movie, but no,
Well,
I mean,
it's funny that you say that. I mean, growing up when I did, or hair metal, when I was a kid,
huge.
was huge. And then of course, and when I got more into metal, I guess you could say, was actually when I heard "And Justice for All." So
that's a killer album, man.
That got me going.
That's my favorite of theirs.
Yeah, actually, nowadays my favorite's Puppets, but the first time I heard them was when Justice came out. That got me into more so that type of music. And actually, when I saw the Lollapalooza tour that Primus and Alice in Chains co-headline, was the first time I'd ever even heard Primus, and that was like, obviously blew my mind. So
my best friends had a cousin. He's a whiz at guitar, dude. He's the type of dude that could like hear a song, and by the end of the song, he's already got the melody and the chords down. Like he's a savant. But he was the one that introduced me to Metallica, and Injustice for All was the album or the tape that he gave us. But to this day, Injustice for All and Ride the Lightning are my two favorite Metallica albums. But he also was the guy that introduced me to Primus, and he gave me a cassette tape of Selling the Seas of Cheese.
Yes, sir.
So that was my first introduction to album to Primus. And I was like, what is this? Same reaction I had when you guys played it the first time.
Wow.
It was like, what is this? And so I went back, I was a big Primus fan back in the day because I've always kind of sought out interesting, different, creative stuff. I've never really been that much into mainstream. Now, what I was into became mainstream in the 90s, right?
Exactly.
Alternative music became the big thing, but that's I was really drawn to that culture. And then, believe it or not, my neighbor, the kid that lived next door to me growing up, his dad had one of them big, huge satellites. Right? And so we were on there trying to find some porn, right?
Of course.
But we came across this channel that was all music videos. It was I think it was called The Box or something like that. I think it was a New York, local New York station that this satellite was picking up.
Yeah.
And that's how I got introduced to hip hop. And this is really early on. This is before Redman got famous, when Wu-Tang had just come out, NWA was still putting videos out. And so I'm 11, 12 years old, and I'm seeing straight out of Compton. I'm like, what the fuck is
your
this?
mind's blown.
Blown again. And so I've always kind of been hip hop, alternative metal. It's kind of where I cut my teeth.
Well, we still every once in a while love going back and listening to some old Run DMC.
That's fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate what hip hop's become, man. Hip hop was so much better back then.
I tend to agree.
It's still out there. You just got to
There's
look
good
for
stuff.
it.
There is.
There's
some guys out there that are killing it right now. One of the newer artists that I really like is Logic. I don't know if you ever listened to that guy or not.
No, I'll check him out.
What I like about him is he's more of a storyteller than a showboat. You know what I mean? That's what drew me in to it to begin with, was the storytelling aspect of it.
Kendrick Lamar used to be like that, but he's gotten too big.
Yeah, it's gotten a little silly. Yeah. But no, it was it's reprieve. Telling stories interesting, and then as you got more into the 90s, the thing that kind of really kept me listening to hip hop was that's not my experience, right? Growing up in the hood isn't my experience. I grew up in the woods, but it was the perspective, the counterculture, no shit. Hip hop is the reason I was able to learn more about the other side of our history, and today we're seeing this huge. There's a social war going on, if you spend too much time online.
Absolutely.
But, it kind of helps you understand where people are coming from.
Other perspectives.
I feel, I have the same perspective when it comes to authority. I just don't have the same experience. You know what I mean?
Yes. Excellent. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, actually.
And that was the whole purpose of the music too, was
Yeah.
to get out what their experience was because it was being kept down so hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so now with your music, you're just having fun, right? You're not really making any. You're not trying to make any points, are you?
No.
Not really. Thematically, I'm more so. Now, there's a couple of songs that are just flat out angry songs. That's the metal side of the house. Several of our tunes, everybody writes what you know, but we're both nurses. Mm-hmm. So several of our themes are actually based on our experiences in healthcare. And I try to pick some of the more quirky ones.
Gross.
Or gross, just for wow value. But like the song off our original EP, Cadaver Toe, that's the one that currently you see me playing with the bow. That was about a patient she had back in her bedside nursing days that his foot was rotting off.
His toes looked like you could
Just
crack them off.
Ooh.
The thing is, they wanted to feel bad for him, but every time one of the nurses would try and go in there, they'd try and get all grab-assy with them.
Oh.
So we wrote that's about that. One of the more, I will say, oddity. I used to work for the state and inspecting healthcare facilities, and my office also covered abortion clinics. Now, we wouldn't observe the procedures. We were mainly in there just looking kind of at surveying for proper infection control practices. Yeah. But I got to see, shall I say, the leftovers. Now, Don't get me wrong. These weren't like late term or nothing crazy like that. There weren't like parts floating in it. But just some of the fluids were sort of a light pinkish color. It almost looked like what I would consider a raspberry stout or something. And the name just popped into my head, Abortion Goo. So that's what that song is about.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of the stuff that you'll hear on our upcoming, we are this far from finishing our next EP. Mm-hmm. Two of the tunes off that are healthcare related. Love Pocket.
Love Pocket. Oh, God, tell me where this goes.
Yeah, actually, that's the one that you see me currently playing on the trumpet. Okay. There was a guy that had a colostomy. You know what that is? Yeah. Is everybody? Okay. Yeah. So whatever condition that was in existence that...
I'm already nervous about this story.
That made him need a colostomy got better. So the surgeon notified him, hey, we can reverse your colostomy. And he said, I make too much money off this hole.
What?
He was prostituting.
Oh, my God.
So he refused to have it reversed.
Nope. I'm going to forget this conversation.
Thus, Love Pocket was born.
Oh, man.
And then the other one.
Love Pocket.
The next one, one of the ones that she's on bass and I'm on keyboard is called Stroke Me. You see, what I love playing on words with the titles because you think it's going to be, something sexual or awesome or whatever. And it's not.
Well, that is sexual.
Well, it is.
Awesome,
but Stroke Me was a patient that she had that had a stroke. And he was actually a very, straight and level type of guy, upstanding in the community. But he had a frontal lobe stroke.
Which is like your moral gateway.
And he was like begging family members for sexual favors or whatnot. Yeah.
Like his daughter, she must have been in her early 20s, and I saw her go out in the hallway, and she was freaking out, and she eventually just left. But it was a bizarre.
Jarring.
Yeah.
Man, that's rough.
So, wrote a song about it. So that's where that's why
it's a form of therapy.
Our themes are, in that regard, very quirky.
To say the least.
Yeah. A song, another one off our album called Sober Dreams. That one's about me, actually. So Not today, but I used to be a extremely heavy drinker. Clearly, I still enjoy my beer, but I went way harder. I used to go way harder than I do now.
It wasn't like hard liquor, but it was the very high percent beers and
Way too hard. Anyway, when I finally got it in me to pump the brakes a little, when you're used to putting yourself down every night with alcohol, when you start to even if you don't go cold turkey, even if you just slow down, sleep becomes extremely difficult. And even when you do go to sleep, or at least me, my experience, my dreams became absolutely terrifying.
No shit.
Yes, sir, and way more vivid than I'd ever had. So I'm over that phase. Like, it doesn't last the rest of your life. I'm beyond that phase. But so that's what Sober Dreams is about.
I'm curious are there any that stand out that you can like walk us through?
Nothing too terribly insane as far as like being chased through the woods by animals, like big cats, stuff like that. Of course, everybody has those dreams where, you can't punch hard. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But like getting attacked by groups of people was one that was very recurring. Getting shot. And then sometimes, when you pop up, I would see things in the room. Like, I guess you'd just say I had moments of hallucinations where I thought things were in the room with me. That kind of, just like I said, the most vivid dreams I've ever had was during that phase.
I've had similar dreams. It's one of the recurring dreams I had. I don't really remember my dreams that much anymore. But when I was younger, I had this one where, I don't know if I watched a movie or something, but I had this dream where I'm like being chased and I'm jumping from the tops of buildings onto buildings, and then those dreams always end with me not making the jump.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like missing the next building, and I'm on my way down, and that's when I wake up. And that's happened to me a bunch of times. That's
interesting.
Jesus.
It's like if they had to be all vivid, why couldn't the dreams just be sex dreams?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I never got that. I mean, maybe once or twice, but the vivid dreams I had were always terrifying.
Yeah.
It's wild. So the Sober Dreams song is more. Is it about the vivid dreams, or is it more about like not getting good sleep? Like,
all of it.
It's
Just deciding that it's time to calm down a little bit on the drinking. And the dreams themselves and the difficulty in sleep. This song, I really can't wait for you to hear it. This one is kind of you remember I told you every one of our songs is kind of an homage to a type of music or an artist. This one has evolved into kind of our Danny Elfman, the composer. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know Danny Elfman.
He does the music for most of Tim Burton's movies.
Oh, okay.
Nightmare Before Christmas?
Yeah. No, I know Tim Burton.
Very
is.
whimsically stuff, yeah.
Yeah, this one has evolved into kind of that type.
Okay.
I'm on the upright. She's on keyboard. Steve actually sings this one.
Actually, that's what makes it sound very Tim Burton. We had no clue that he had a voice like he has. It's awesome. We all got chills when we first heard his recording that he sent over to us.
It's like, holy shit. I mean, he does background vocals for us, but this one, we kind of flip it. And I think that's also neat, even from the crowd perspective, especially live. It's going to be like, oh, well, man, the drummer's singing one.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, you know what I mean?
What's this one going to be called?
So, talking about Sober Dreams.
We're still on Sober Dreams.
Yeah.
Wow, now I'm like super excited to hear this.
Yeah.
I hope you got something recorded we can hear after the show.
Actually, I do not. I know.
We'll have to wait until Saturday, August 17th, right here at the Rooster to hear Sober Dreams right here on this stage.
It's been cool. We took a little bit different approach with this recording. I don't know if the Grateful Dead coined the phrase or not, but we kind of went with the wall of sound philosophy.
Okay.
Like, even when we started thinking about this recording, I got it out of my head. I said, we will worry about how we're going to pull this off live later. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I didn't want, with this particular recording, I didn't want how am I going to pull this off live to be anywhere in the equation? So with some of the songs, not all of them, but like I've layered a lot of horns, trumpet and sax, so it gives it a whole lot more thick
Depth.
Yes, a lot more going on. And
We have gang vocals in some of them.
yeah, I can't get her on a mic yet live for nothing, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, you're not comfortable singing?
It's hard for me to sing and play at the same time.
Ah.
So maybe if I had a part where I just sang, I could build up that comfort level, but I don't practice enough to pull it off yet.
But I'm ultra excited about this next recording. I'm not actually going to release it until now. I might let a few select people hear some stuff prior
Right
to
on.
this time. What I want to do is not release anything until I have a little more content to release. So like when we released the Killdozer video, it got a little pop. It got a little of attention.
That's a wild fucking song.
Yeah.
That's
Thank
a
you.
wild
Yeah,
song.
we'll talk about that in just a moment, and even the video because it was ultra fun to do. But we got a little pop, and then we didn't have anything else. And especially in today's era, it
You gotta
seems
keep it going.
you get the
You gotta
content.
keep it going.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's
Yeah,
exactly
well,
right.
I mean, it's if you want. What do you want to get out of it, right?
Well,
Like,
that's
the
a good
question.
point,
What are you
too.
looking to get
Yeah.
out? Are you just trying to make music, or are you trying to make this a hobby, a job, a career?
I will be definitely willing to say, especially at this phase of our lives. I mean, I'm late. What am I? 46 or 47? 40. We'll say 47.
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct. And she.
What?
Looks great
I'm
for
20,
however
I'm
old she is.
27.
Yeah. At this phase of our lives, we have no illusions about quote unquote making it.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and claim that a little bit of attention here and there it makes you feel good.
Yeah. Well, you want it to be validated.
Exactly,
I mean,
yeah.
clearly you're pouring a lot of yourself into this art. You want to know that somebody appreciates it. I mean, I do. I love what you do.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
think it's right up my alley.
Yeah.
You know,
But this time, what I'm going to do, we're going to get the recordings done. Of course, I've already mapped out all grades of video ideas. But I'm not going to release anything until I have about 3 videos. So then I can put them out like maybe a couple months apart from each other. So there's a little more flow of content.
yeah, get a steady stream to kind of boost.
Yeah,
boost some
and
stuff.
even like once we get the first 3 videos shot, we can still keep working on more, but I'll just have something to release over a little more stretch of time
Yeah.
than just putting it out
Try
all
to
at
line and
once.
try to line up some gigs too, like during that time.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you know what? I never thought about that. You're
To
right.
try, put, maybe, no one really buys CDs or albums, but, maybe get a little bit of merch to kind of, boost it up. Now, I do want to, because we're before we get out of here, I want to talk about Killdozer.
Yeah,
If you have get here on Saturday, August 17th, and see these guys play live, tell me about Killdozer. Where did that come from?
So I remember when it happened, like whatever year it was. Like obviously we were a good deal younger back then, but I remember seeing it on the news, just like, good Lord, this is insane.
Well, talk about the event so that people don't get
Marvin
lost.
Heemeyer had a beef with his town. And if I'm not mistaken, it was something over property rights to the fact that
I
they
did
were
a real deep dive on the guy.
and
was insane.
the city, the town or city, whatever. Essentially, they were going to property zone him out of business.
Mm-hmm.
Like he had a muffler shop, and the way they were talking about zoning rights or whatever, there was not going to be any access to his shop. It would be like if this town said, you can have your bar, but you can't have any doors.
Yeah.
Like nobody can get in here. So over time, and of course he was going back and forth with the town, and he was getting wrote up in the paper, all grades of bad and whatnot. And over time, he basically built a concrete armored shell around a bulldozer. And he planned this thing out. Like there wasn't even for him to see inside of it. He had cameras that had bulletproof
I think
plastic.
it took him 18 months to build it.
That's right, yeah. so there was no sniper points or whatever. So, and whenever he was done and that day happened, he sealed himself in it and drove it around town, just fucking shit up.
Just knocking everything over he could.
And the local authorities had nothing that could stop this thing. Now, I will go on and fast forward a little bit to the end, but no, he didn't. Fortunately, nobody else died in it. Because, I mean, a bulldozer don't exactly go fast. It's not like you can't see it coming and get out of the way.
Just wrecked a lot of buildings.
Yeah, but he just tore through that town. I can't remember what the monetary figure was. The town mayor or the state governor, as I have read, was actually in talks with the state National Guard about an Apache Hellfire missile strike on it to stop
Christ. How long did he go for in this thing?
Oh, hours.
Yeah, it was a few hours.
Yeah. But they decided against that because they were scared of collateral damage, basically from a military strike on U.S. soil.
Yeah.
I mean, so what ended up happening to him, one of the buildings, and you see, I mean, the footage is in the video, and obviously you can YouTube it or whatever to see the news coverage. But one of the buildings, the last building he was driving through, it fell into the basement of the building, and apparently a radiator hose popped. And this, of course, you see the smoke start pouring out or whatever. And at that point, he realized he wasn't going any further, so he just killed himself inside of it.
Damn.
Yeah. So that's the story. I'm not. I preface, especially when I'm talking to somebody that maybe isn't into the type of stuff that we are, is that I'm not claiming that. Like, I wouldn't do that. I'm not saying I condone it. I just find it a fascinating story and piece of psychology.
Well, I was just about to say, it's like part of me wants to be like, how fucking punk rock is that?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
And then another part of me is like, this is what bureaucracy can do to people, right?
That's excellent point.
Was this guy crazy, or was he just a guy that owned a muffler shop that got pushed to that point, you know?
We can talk about it a lot more later because I did a real deep thing on the deal.
Yeah, okay.
He was not mentally stable.
Yeah, and there was some religious connotations to his wordings but you're absolutely right. You could do a whole show on it if you wanted to.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of things where like it was the water. He was cut off from the water, and before he even bought the place, he knew he'd have to hook it up, and it would cost him $100,000 or so, and he just didn't want to. He just didn't want to do what he had to do.
And that's
I've
told several people. Once again, I don't even know legally who was right or wrong, and I'm not advocating either side. I'm just saying it's a crazy ass story. Yeah, right. Yeah. And the video was really fun to shoot. That was the first time we've ever really done that kind of thing. The videographer and director that filmed it was a good friend of mine named Tony Murnahan. Shout out to Tony. He had a really good vision for it. And the scenes you see of us playing were actually filmed just in an old farm barn on our property. Nice. So it gave it a really good look, kind of gritty, in line with the theme of the song.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And that's got to be probably your most popular song, right?
Oh, yeah. Part reason being is that we have a product also to, stuff with a video goes obviously way farther than something without. Yeah.
Right on. Well, look, we're gonna wrap it up. All right, we're gonna run too long. I don't want people to check out, but if you want, we can put the video in the music video in the episode.
Oh, please.
All right, right on.
Look, check this out real quick. I know you said you don't have any room for T-shirts. But I did bring you a gift if you'd like a couple hats.
Yes, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Hell yeah.
I forgot it, I guess.
There you go.
How's it look?
Thanks for having us.
I'm one of these guys.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
I don't know how these kids wear the flat bills. It's crazy to me.
But once again, thanks for having us, and we always look forward to coming and being part of the Rooster family.
Thanks for coming out. These guys, y'all don't know this, but these guys drove almost 4 hours to be here today. So thank you for that. And then they'll be back on Saturday, August 17th, Lords and Liars, with Strike the Tower, Fever Hill, and Award to Win. It's going to be a great show. And stick around and check out the music video for Killdozer right now. Peace and love.
See ya.
Thank you.
time to meet Killdozer! He's going down the way that may never Newspaper, town hall, these systems all will fall. Earth mover, turn tank, rampage through the bank. Clear mission, commission, still reborn through attrition. Diesel flow, full clip, sealed in for a one-way trip. It's time to face Killdozer!